Korean red ginseng to encourage our denominational moderator and state clerk to have them boost up.
Thank you, brother.
끝으로 인사. 존경하는 PCA 총대 여러분,
Respected delegates of PCA,
우리 교단과 PCA가 개혁주의 신앙으로 끝까지 복음의 사명을 감당하기를 소원하며 이 자리를 물러납니다.
and my last word is let's go together to keep the conservatism and reformed theology and Bible-centered faith until the next moment of our Jesus coming again.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
Thank you for your indulgence. Our brothers from Mexico also have to go catch a flight, so we're going to have them come up as well. We have Pastor Juan Marcos Perez Alonso and Pastor Rebelo Roblero Reyes from the National Presbyterian Church of Mexico, and Margaret Baker will be translating for them.
Microphone one, sir.
Ruling Elder James Marvin, Susquehanna Valley Presbytery. Could you please remind the commissioners at the back to be quiet? I have hearing aids, and even up here I can hear conversations occurring in the rear, especially when there's translation with our guests. It's hard to discern what is being said.
Yes, sir. We'll take that as a point of personal privilege. Fathers and brothers that are standing in the back, those of you visiting, if we could impose on you to please remove your conversations to the hallway, it would be very helpful. I'm glad this brother complained because actually I was having a little trouble myself, so thank you very much. Please, brothers.
Buenos días, amados hermanos de la Iglesia Presbiteriana de América.
Good morning, beloved brothers of the Presbyterian Church in America.
Reciban fraternal y caluroso saludo de la Iglesia Nacional Presbiteriana de México.
We bring warm fraternal greetings from the National Presbyterian Church in Mexico.
Nos regocijamos en el Señor Todopoderoso Jesucristo de poder ser colaboradores del Señor para el extendimiento del reino de Dios en el territorio mexicano y de estar con ustedes para establecer comunicación con diferentes ministerios para desarrollarlos en nuestro campo.
Through the power of our Almighty God, we rejoice to be able to collaborate with you for the extension of God's kingdom in Mexico, and that we can work together to develop various ministries in our land.
Dios siga bendiciendo a sus dirigentes y a cada uno de los presbiterios para seguir siendo la iglesia firme y fuerte en su propia nación.
May God continue to bless your leaders and all your presbyters, that you may continue to be a steady and strong church in your own land.
God bless you.
Thank you all for your indulgence. We really appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, RPR will resume now. Well, look what you did. Chased him off.
Let's go back to ICR. Come on back.
Very well. Come on back up, sir. We'll just go ahead and conclude the ICR business, and then we'll resume.
Oh, here he is. He's back.
Okay. Alacrity. What's next, Mr. Chairman?
Columbus Metro.
Columbus Metro. Will the brother who asked that be extracted from the engrossed please come to the microphone? Microphone 3, please, sir.
Mr. Moderator, Teaching Elder Larry Hope, Ohio Valley Presbytery. Mr. Moderator, I move an amendment to the, a couple of amendments actually. First to page 4002, the first citation, lines 4 through 8. I would move those be stricken. And then, Mr. Moderator, on page 4024, line 19, under A, to be approved without exception, to strike June 21st, 2023 from the report. To add, at somewhere around line 25, I believe, a new 2024-3 item to read as follows: June 21st, 2023, in parentheses, preliminary principle 6, semicolon, BCO 13-10, semicolon, 25-6, 7, 9, and 11.
Thank you.
Close parentheses. Presbytery appears to dissolve a congregation and take possession of its assets without following the correct constitutional process. And then down on page 4026, starting at line 29 and extending through page 4027, line 28, strike that entire item G. I would so move, and if there's a second, I'll speak to it.
Please proceed, sir.
Mr. Moderator, our normal procedure when a presbytery has done something that the committee believes is unconstitutional is to recommend that an exception of substance be found that the presbytery then may have the opportunity to respond to and report to the next General Assembly. It's my understanding that the reason that in this case Columbus Metro Presbytery was cited to appear was because of the seriousness of matters relating to property. And certainly I would agree with that. I believe those, indeed, whenever a presbytery does something regarding a church's property and dissolves the church, that is an important matter. However, as a member of the presbytery that will be responsible to respond to this, if the proposed merger between us and Columbus Metro Presbytery goes through, which we hope it will, I've done a little bit of research into this, and I believe that from our minutes, or from the minutes of Columbus Metro Presbytery, from their actions over a long period of time regarding this church, a sufficient explanation may be offered as to why they took this particular action that is indeed within the confines of our Constitution. Now, it may be that when we make that report next year, the Assembly will decide it is not satisfactory. We hope it will not make that decision. But at that point, they could then refer this to the Standing Judicial Commission. But I would argue or urge us to follow our typical procedure and not unduly burden the SJC, which already has a full docket, if we could avoid that. So, Mr. Moderator, I would move that this amendment be approved and we be given the opportunity to respond to the Assembly before any judicial action is taken.
Thank you, sir. Microphone 7. For what purpose do you rise, sir?
To speak, Teaching Elder Steve Tipton, Gulf Coast Presbytery, to speak against the amendment to strike.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. I would probably agree with a lot of what the previous speaker mentioned, except one, I would say, very significant fact, and that is that this did not arise from our PR. We were not the initiators of this action. Rather, there was a report from members of this congregation in Columbus Metro who submitted what is typically referred to as a 40-5 report to the General Assembly. It actually went to the stated clerk's office, and the stated clerk passed that information to the RPR to consider and to make a recommendation. I would also remind us that 40-5 indicates that when this body does find that report, a credible report of a grossly unconstitutional action or a serious delinquency, that the first step is to cite the presbytery to appear before the General Assembly. Last year we had some debate and discussion about whether or not a matter could originate from RPR by their read of minutes, and the Assembly actually approved that we could do that. This is not that case. This is not that issue. There was a letter sent from the congregation. It is very likely that this matter would not have been caught by RPR because of the way in which the issue was addressed in the minutes of Columbus Metro. It was only because a member of the congregation whose church was sold more or less out from underneath them by the presbytery that this issue came before the General Assembly through RPR. And so, brothers, this is the proper way of handling a 40-5 request when it is raised through just a regular member to the stated clerk's office and is referred to RPR. So I would advise us to vote this motion to strike down and to proceed with the citation as it is in the report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Microphone 1, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
To speak against the amendment.
I'm sorry?
To speak against the amendment.
Very
sir.
well. Microphone 2, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Against.
And number 2, the second time, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Same.
Okay. And microphone 3.
I speak in favor, and
Please,
to
sir.
provide a little bit more context. This is not a church that had a building. It is not a church that had any land at all. It had a few Christian education items and $18,000 in the bank, which was used to pay off creditors and to provide a very modest severance package for the full-time and 2 part-time employees. We should not have the impression that the presbytery took land, as we all, which is truly something we would all be very concerned about, but it was a church at the end of its life that the presbytery had been working with for some time to see if it could be revitalized, and had concluded that was not the case. There was no government because the session and the pastor had both resigned. So I'm providing facts that I think would help provide context and could easily be reported next year as an answer to a citation, a finding of an exception of substance.
Thank you, sir. Microphone 1.
Fathers and brothers, ruling elder Matt Fender, James River Presbytery. I'm not going to repeat what a previous speaker said, except to note that 40-5 provides probably the only means of redress that a member of a church has against a presbytery. Members have no standing in presbytery. They do not have the opportunity to come forward and file a complaint. They can't speak on the floor of presbytery. They can't do anything if they don't have elders to represent them to stand up against a presbytery that's acting wrongly. Now, the previous speaker just gave us some facts. Those facts are not in the record. And I would suggest to you, brothers, that it's the proper role of the 40-5 citation and the ensuing SJC case to investigate those facts, to find those facts definitively, and that we shouldn't rely upon statements made at a microphone on the floor that aren't in the record. The seizure of a church's property, whether it be real property or personal property like a bank account, I don't think any of us would doubt that that rises to the level of a grossly unconstitutional proceeding. It is in fact a solemn covenant and a fundamental principle of our denomination that church property belongs to the church, not the presbytery. And therefore, brothers, I urge you to defeat this amendment.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no one else at a microphone, number 2.
Mr. Moderator, Ryan Beasy, Tennessee Valley Presbytery teaching elder. Someone may object in this case that perhaps the church had little property. Well, that's fine. That's what we've heard, but we haven't investigated that. Nonetheless, sir, our book is crystal clear BCO 25:8, no monies or properties, absolutely whatsoever, without any qualification in the Book of Church Order, except by the free and voluntary action of the local church, can be received by the presbytery or general assembly. In this case, Mr. Moderator, the report, and that's all it is right now, is a report, alleges not only did the local church not freely or voluntarily entrust its property to the presbytery, but the presbytery allegedly shuttered the congregation, dissolved the congregation, and seemingly without the opportunity for this flock of Christ's people to remonstrate and to plead with the presbytery not to remove their lampstand. Mr. Moderator, our Lord is very patient with his churches. It is a grievous thing to receive a report that a presbytery of our denomination was not similarly patient for a mere 60 days. This report alleges a grossly unconstitutional action that, if true, is in defiance not only of our Constitution, but also our history and heritage as a grassroots denomination, and therefore urgently needs to be addressed by our Judicial Commission, that justice and peace may be promoted and by God's grace restored to this region of God's world. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir. Microphone 2. I don't see anybody. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. For what purpose do you rise? Microphone 4. For what purpose do you rise, sir?
To oppose the substitute.
To oppose the substitute. Microphone 2.
Against the substitute.
Yes, sir, I understand.
All right,
You have the
Teaching
floor.
Elder Scott Edberg, Ileana Presbytery, the seizure of assets.
Thank you, sir. Microphone 4.
I realize time's about to expire. Teaching Elder Chuck Hickey, Ohio Valley Presbytery. In our last Presbytery meeting, we were asked to approve the reception.
And time has expired. Is there any desire to extend debate? By 5 minutes is what the increment would be. I hear no one. I'm going to rule the debate has ended. I can't? Is that true?
Do they wish to extend debate by 5 minutes?
I don't hear anybody. There's nobody in the mic. Fine. We are not extending debate, except up here. Oh, there you are. Well, please come to microphone to make your motion, sir.
They have to vote to extend.
I understand. Because it has to be seconded as well. Right?
R.A. Ryan Bowling, Houston Metro Presbytery. I move we extend debate 5 minutes.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Debate is extended. Microphone 4, sir.
No, you're going to vote. It's a motion. They have to vote to
You're right. You see, I'm trying to hurry now. All in favor of extending debate, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? No. That's what I thought. Yeah. Debate is not extended. Are you ready to vote? What's before you, brothers, is the motion to amend by striking lines 4 through 8 on Columbus Metro. I'm very sorry, sir, please.
Mr. Moderator, fathers and brothers, I would urge you to vote down this amendment. As already has been stated, this matter came to us not from within the review of the minutes, but as a referral from the stated clerk. I would simply say this: as we made this decision, two of the matters that we considered was, one, is that this member or members has no other recourse. This is their only avenue. And second, that as even the amendment says, this would be a violation of our preliminary principles. I mean, the very foundation on which our polity is based. And that in its very essence means that this is a matter that is grossly unconstitutional or an important delinquency. So I urge you to vote down the amendment and vote for the recommendation of the committee.
Thank you, sir. And the motion before you, again, is to strike the June line, the lines on this item on page 4002 are 4 to 8. And then on 4024, it's essentially all of G, to lose the date June 21st to 23rd, which is in item 6.13.a. And I think that's it. Okay, are you ready to vote? Okay, voting is open. And voting is closed. The motion to amend fails. Therefore, the recommendation of the RPR committee is before you. Does anyone wish to speak to it? Are you ready to vote? Okay, please set us up. All in favor of the RPR recommendation, please vote yes. Those opposed, no. Voting is open. And voting is closed. The recommendation is adopted. The next item before us is Northwest Georgia, beginning on page 4104. Will the brother who asked that it be extracted from engross please step to the microphone?
Mr. Moderator, as the brother is coming to the microphone, I would invite Teaching Elder Jason Pylan, a member of the committee and who is also the convener of the Reed team for this presbytery, forward to represent the committee in this matter.
Thank you, sir. Microphone 7. Will you please tell us what it is that what you're asking for here?
Teaching Elder Dominic Aquila, Rocky Mountain Presbytery. The request that I made about pulling out was only with 56E. That was what I had requested, not the whole of Northwest Presbytery, but of Georgia.
Yes, sir. That's the confusion up here was early on. We were only able to move fast enough to capture page numbers and so on. So what I'm asking for is those who ask that they be extracted, point us to exactly the right place and restate what they want out.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
That's pages 4105 and 6.
Okay, I even had the page wrong. All right. Do you wish to speak to that, sir?
Yes. Move that the RPR recommendation to rescind a previous action be stricken.
Is there a second? Very well, sir. You may proceed.
Yeah. In handling the case, and this one has gone back and forth from General Assembly to the Presbytery and the Presbytery back, it has also involved a number of SJC cases, and these cases were eventually settled by the SJC and declared moot. But the point here is that once the judgment was made that an action was out of order, now, and the last General Assembly, there was a debate on this as to whether or not to send it to the SJC. Then that motion prevailed and the SJC dealt with it. When a decision is made by a court and a complaint is sustained, especially if the complaint has been carried to a higher court, once that court has sustained its action, it doesn't require the lower court to rescind. And that's never a part of the process that's even in our book. And there's no need to rescind because sustaining of complaint has the effect of annulling the action that was complained against. And therefore, it's no longer a proper action of the lower court. And so there's no need for us to ask Northwest Georgia Presbytery to rescind an action that has already been found sustained and annulled, and therefore it would be a moot issue for us. So I would urge that we support the substitute to strike the recommendation to rescind an action that has now been declared moot and doesn't exist any longer.
Thank you, sir. You don't see anybody, do you? Seeing no one else at a microphone, are you prepared to move to a vote on this? I'm so sorry. I forgot you were here for that. I apologize, really.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Teaching Elder Jason Pylan, the Ohio Presbytery, representing RPR on this matter before you. I just want to point out that there are two items. I'm not exactly sure if both of them are in front of us or if it's simply the one item, but there were two items I believe that were pulled out. And the one that a previous speaker spoke of a moment ago, it seemed to me he indicated that these matters were adjudicated by the Standing Judicial Commission. There are complaints before the Presbytery that may have been adjudicated by the Standing Judicial Commission. That is not what happened in this case. There were related matters that may have been adjudicated by the Standing Judicial Commission. But the posture and the point of RPR's recommendation is that if that did indeed happen, what is appropriate is for the lower court to rescind that previous action and then identify a potential judicial mootness. An action by a third party does not cure an unconstitutional action that took in the first place. So if there was an unconstitutional action of denying these complaints without hearings, as RPR has recommended you find, and in past RPR has recommended that, and the General Assembly has approved that. If that is the case, unconstitutional denials of complaints, that needs to be rescinded before it can be disposed of, because these matters were never elevated to the Standing Judicial Commission. So, fathers and brothers, I believe the committee's report is still accurate, even in light of what was previously stated, and is the proper action for this court to take on these matters. It will go back to the Presbytery. The Presbytery can simply rescind, and if it is judicially moot, simply declare that and move on. It is not a difficult remedy for the Presbytery, but they need to handle this in that way because this matter was never taken to the Standing Judicial Commission. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further discussion? Very well. Are you prepared to vote? All right. What is before you, brothers, is the substitute for the RPR recommendation 56E, that it be, well, this can't be written properly. It says that the RPR recommendation to rescind a previous action be stricken. To the maker of that motion, is that accurate? Please, microphone 7.
Mr. Moderator, yes, it is.
Okay.
To strike that recommendation.
Thank you, sir. That's what's before you, brothers. Are you prepared to vote? Voting is open. And voting is closed. The motion to strike is defeated. You have the RPR recommendation before you. Mr. Chairman, did you have something you want to say first?
No further comment, okay. Mr. Moderator.
Does anyone wish to discuss this further? Are you prepared to vote? Please set us up. Oh, please set us up for that vote. Thank you. Voting is open. Come back at the same time. And voting is closed. The recommendation is adopted.
Mr. Moderator, by my list, we have one more presbytery to consider, but I imagine that it will generate some length of debate, and given the hour, I would suggest that we adjourn or recess a few minutes early for lunch, and then come back and take it up following lunch at 1:30 p.m.
Seems like a wise idea. I think we had people at the microphone to suggest as much. So we will remain in recess until 1:30 p.m., at which point we'll resume the RPR report. Thank you, fathers and brothers.
Oh.
Should we?
But we're not going to do the Brazilians.
No. He moved it over.